Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Wonderful Wednesdays with Wendy. I am your host, Wendy Wotecki. Today, I am super excited to bring to you one of the people that I'm really enjoying collaborating with lately, and her name is Lisa Karney, and she is from the PA Career Link. So welcome, Lisa. How are you today?
Great. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I'm doing great.
Awesome. So Lisa is a little bit more specialized, I would say, at the PA Career Link. And I brought her on to explain to you what it is that she does, what her role is, and what population she helps the most, and how she goes about doing that. How do you qualify or don't qualify? And just everything you need to know about her job at the PA Career Link and how she can help you. All right. So Lisa, what is your job title?
My job title is Talent Development Specialist. And that is a really big, long name for somebody who works individually, especially with young adults, to help to prepare them for and get them ready for and get them into employment.
That is awesome. So you very specifically work with youth then? What age group?
That's right. I just work with the youth. We do have a team that will work with adults, but I work specifically with 16 to 24-year-old youth that are out of school. Either they have perhaps dropped out and need a GED, or they've graduated and completed school and are out.
Okay, so if they are still in school and attending school, what age can you help them?
I can really take a call and help any youth that happens to call. Again, 16 is about the age where we look to start, because that's when most young adults are looking for employment. So at that point, if you're thinking to yourself, man, I just don't know where to start for employment, giving the CareerLink office a call is a great first step. I'm just going to expand upon that a little bit and say that the CareerLink office deals with everybody. We welcome anybody who is seeking employment.
Yes, and so right now we're running into a little bit of a conundrum where there's lots of jobs and not a lot of people that want to fill those positions. And we know that it's really difficult right now to find family sustaining jobs. And are you looking to do more family sustaining jobs, or what is your goal when you are opening up a new case with a youth? Because they're the youth. So what is your goal with them?
Right. That is a wonderful question, and one that I welcome, because my usual opening is we are looking to find and secure long-term, full-time, sustainable employment at a living wage. I don't work to get anybody halfway. And I think that we all have perhaps realized that getting a minimum wage or just barely over a minimum wage job is not life and family supporting. And that is not our goal. Our goal is to do better than that.
Yes, the data just came out, I believe, from the ADA, and they said that currently, if you use the median rate for housing with one utility, that you would have to work 120 hours a week at a minimum wage job just for that housing and one utility. So it makes me very happy to hear that you're not trying to just put somebody in a quick job that is easy entry level when it's not going to be the most sustainable, effective thing, long-term solution into ending generational poverty and to get them secure in what they need to do. So when a student calls you, a youth calls you and says, listen, I am trying to find a job, what are the first steps that you take with them?
The first steps that I take with them, because I work specifically within a federally funded program that we shorten into WIOA. It is short for the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. Like I said, it's a federally funded program. It's available to anybody who qualifies for it. And if you are out of school and you can show barriers to employment, then I can help you. If you don't have, and really I urge anybody to contact me, because you never know if you would qualify. I have 3 children of my own. They're all different. I got all 3 flavors, and So all three of my children, one of them is in school, obviously will not qualify for the WIOA program because in school. I have two who are out of school. One qualifies automatically, and the other one, unless he were to become homeless, I think, will probably never qualify because he simply has no real barriers. He's very able-bodied, very capable, and I would give him all of the help I could to refer him to somebody who would help with that full-time living wage. But specialty, I'm more hands-on and one-on-one. And so my job is to see if we have a barrier for employment. And the first questions that I would ask is, do you think that you're having like a special difficulty finding a job? Is there something that you're looking for? And then I take them through a very basic list. It's rather invasive. It's kind of personal about what their income is right now and what sort of barriers they might have. We might find that even though they're a high school graduate, they are low literacy, like they never could do well in math. If they can also show that they're low income, then that would be a barrier to employment because a lot of times basic math skills are part of employment. And maybe they're not though, and then we just look for a job that doesn't require math, and I think that almost everybody in my family would be okay with that too. Another thing that I would ask for is some basic issues that might, traditionally bother you for finding work. If you're pregnant or parenting, you're automatically working against an extra little, well, we'll call them a little obstacle, but they're adorable. If they're looking at child care or pregnancy care, then that's obviously a little extra challenging for somebody. If somebody has had a run-in with the criminal justice system and they've been in the system for whatever, then we definitely want to help them. If they never gained their GED or their diploma, we want to help you. If they can claim any sort of disability status, then you qualify automatically. And there are a couple that I'm sure I'm forgetting, but if you've ever been in the foster system, automatic, we find that people who have navigated through the foster care system, and that kind of includes like at birth, like if you were adopted and really early, that studies tend to show that there's difficulty with anybody who's ever been in the foster system. So we can help you automatically.
So students with IEPs or 504 plans would?
Yes. Generally speaking, if there's a diagnosed disability type status, and our staff is pretty well trained and clear. I've like I said, I have my one son who qualifies automatically for the program. His disability status, because he has a generalized learning disability, that was diagnosed for him in first grade. And so he's 23 now. He's in the program as of last year. And does he, I mean, you would never know it to look at him or to talk to him that there's anything going on. But since he can claim disability status, he can qualify for the program. We just need to know what that disability status is, for the government.
Right, of course. So they've called you, they've qualified. So then what is your next step with them?
My next step with them is to gather documents in order to enroll them. Because WIOA is a federally funded program, we have to gather all documents that say you're qualified. And definitely that means that we need to show you who you are. So either your ID or your driver's license or a birth certificate, and then your social security card, and then identifying documents that will explain a little bit more about your barriers. For instance, if you are low income, we will ask you for some sort of income qualifying material. If you are a young man, 18 or over, then you must qualify through showing that you have registered for the Selective Service. Women do not need to do so. And then depending upon your situation, say you have an IEP with a 504 plan, then we would request a copy of that, or I can request one from your school with your permission.
Excellent. Okay, so you learned they had the diagnosis for the cause of why they can use your program, WIOA. You have the documentation for the WIOA. Now, what's the next step, and what's the timeline looking like here through all of this?
All right, the timeline is very individual because it really does depend on how quickly you can move in tandem with our talent development specialists, or we'll call them me. And We can move pretty fast, but it does depend. We have to have all of the documentation proof before we do the enrollment in the program. But that enrollment discussion is probably a matter of about 2 hours of real time. And that includes signing a lot of documents that say you understand that we must be in contact and that you have many rights that we are not looking to take away from you. One of the things that is not part of our paperwork, but it's something that I want to tell people, because especially if you're looking at disability status or really any status, that is not anything that we ever use again. I gather the documents, I give it to the government, we seal it in a file, in a room, on its own, and we never use it for anybody. It's not my job to disclose why it is you qualify for the program. That's entirely up to you. And the individual who's in the program, it's entirely up to them to how much they want to express to anybody about what they're in the program for. And it's also entirely up to each individual how much help they want to take advantage of within the WIOA program. It's led by you. I'm a mom, and I think most of us in this position are either moms or will act like one for you and just kind of say, so how about this? What about that? And just like a mom, we're used to being told no a lot. So it's not like we're going to be offended if you say, no, I don't want that.
So then when you sit down with your students, once they've qualified, is there any kind of testing to figure out what their aptitude, what they're more likely to do well at, be successful at? Like, how do you start determining where you're going to go with the employment?
What we do is, and it is very individual toward each talent development specialist. Some of us like to get an idea on our own, like what sorts of things do you like? Are you in any sports? Do you play on any teams? Are you already thinking, gee, this is what I'd like to do with my life? Or I like to ask what you don't want to do. Like, I've always known I don't want to work in food service. Or I can't quite imagine doing medical care either, but I like to work with people. So here I am. And so we hold a conversation usually just to kind of get an idea, like, what are you thinking? And then if it's kind of either all over the place or we can't figure out how we would parlay that into, a long-term living wage, sustainable employment, then, and with or without our input, we have several different quizzes that we can make available to get an idea. One is very well known. It is called ONET. CareerLink has been using it forever. You can access that for free online. I believe it's something like, I want to say it's like 60 or 90 questions. And all you do is say, how much or how little would you think that you would enjoy doing something? If I said, how do you feel about building kitchen cabinets from the ground up? Do you think it sounds fun? Or do you think it sounds like not fun? Or somewhere in between? And it's like a 1 to 5, rate this. And then they break it down based upon your answers. They say this is what you might be more interested in doing. And you can do some things with very little background. You can do some things with a little bit of, maybe if you have some high school classes or some, kind of after hours type classes, maybe you can get a little bit of training. Maybe you can get some on the job training and make a little bit more, move a little bit further. Or maybe if you want to go to a training school or a college, you might be able to go further with it. And so it really scopes it out for you. Like, if you're thinking to yourself, I'd like to go to school, but not for 4 years. Well, then look in that range and see how much education would you need in order to do what you want to do. So that's OWN It. It's really fascinating because it allows you to kind of say, well, okay, here's where I am, but what if I added one more thing? Like, if I stepped it up one notch with training or with background, then what could I do? And the ONET quiz also gives you a sense of, could you move up within the ranks? If you got a job doing this, say you always wanted to be in construction and you got a job just kind of raking and cleaning up. And they said, oh yeah, we'll teach you stuff. As they started to teach you maybe masonry, maybe a little bit of basic wood construction, then what are you qualified to do? And ONET kind of lays it out for you, like, with a little bit more, you could do this. And also ONET gives you a good sense of what kind of careers are going to be expanding in the next 5 or 10 years. So let's look at a bright outlook career. I like that a lot. But that's ONET. And the other big quiz that we work with is called Tradeify, which is similar to ONET, but it gives us more a sense of really where your passion is, and to get a sense of, and Tradeify is cool because it gives you like a, maybe you want to do this, and you might find this list and go, oh, I hadn't thought of that. And that tends to bring up a nice conversation for us when we use it too, because that way, once we get those results, we can really say, you know, like, well, you got this result. Does it make sense for you? And if it does, then did you find anything that was like, oh, I hadn't thought of that? One of my coworkers used the ONET and the Tradeify quizzes and was working with somebody who thought she wanted to go into some sort of medical career. And she took the quiz and was looking at like not a whole lot of extra training. And the notion of being a mortician's assistant came up. And she looked at my partner and said, what is a mortician's assistant? They had to look it up, and that would be somebody who was looking to prepare bodily remains for, you know, the funeral and then final destination. And my partner said, so does that sound interesting to you? And the young lady said, it kind of does. I never thought of it. So that's the sort of thing that comes up.
I can only imagine. And that's what I'm saying, that, you know, kids, youth, technically, a lot of times have no idea where to even start. And if you want to put them in a career, you know, you want to start them off in a place where they're not job hopping all over the place, spending that time and energy trying to figure out what the trajectory of their life is going to be. So I'm fascinated that you guys take the time to figure that out together. That's super important. So once you do figure that out, then what happens next?
Well, the next thing that we do, especially on the end of looking at these kind of temperament sorters and career opportunities, is to start talking about like, what can we prioritize for you to maybe give some time to. We call that career exploration. And it can look like maybe arranging a job shadow, which is an unpaid opportunity to just kind of be in an environment where you watch the sort of thing that happens. Now, as our example with the mortician's assistant, that might be a little bit more challenging, but you never know who's got a connection that can help you to kind of just see what that's like. That might be more a matter of touring an empty facility. One of my spouse's friends is a funeral director, and while we were both teaching in adult education, this friend used to conduct tours for us with when we would talk about grieving for psychology class. This gentleman would give us a tour through the funeral home when it was not busy. So he would wait for it to be empty and then invite a group in and just kind of show them, you know, what it's like, you know, back room, what it's like, so that, you know, everybody doesn't need to be in question about that. So job shadowing is always a possibility. That is something that we can look to arrange for anybody. We'll make the call, we'll set it up, and we'll get you a schedule. Maybe it's just a couple of hours, maybe it's a couple of days. And another opportunity for you is, if you're pretty sure where you want to go, like everything points to it going in this direction, you're just not sure how yet, then maybe we want to look at getting a paid work experience together. Something where you're working in that field. I was just talking to a young lady who is talking about wanting to work in childcare. And strangely, you brought one up too. But the young lady today was talking about, let me work in childcare, I think. And so what we can do is look at a paid work experience. Very likely, if you work in childcare, you're going to have your clearances done for you. You're going to have a certain amount of base training done so that they know that they've got somebody who can be working with the children in some capacity. And that can be something where we job shadow first, and then we pay you to go and we cover the liability, and you go in and you do a job experience or a work experience. That work experience is paid. At this point in CareerLink with our youth program, we pay $10.35 per hour. For up to 40 hours a week, we do not pay overtime. You have a minimum of 15 to 20 hours that we do ask you to agree to working per week. And it can be for as long as you reasonably want to. We can set up a work experience for up to 720 hours. And if you can imagine, if you were working 20 hours a week, that expands you almost to a year's worth of experience. Now, even in that kind of environment, say you're thinking childcare, but then when you're there, you're thinking, I don't know about young kids, maybe more like just personal care. So maybe we can find another site where you can look at what it is to be a personal care provider. Maybe that's going to turn into an interest to go into the medical profession itself. And maybe we want to look at getting a CNA. And so at that point, things tend to turn. And again, if you come in and you kind of know what kind of training you want, our focus is finding that living wage employment. And so we work from something we call the high priority occupation list. And it is a area of Pennsylvania specific. So it's kind of Erie County specific. Careers that are bound to be booming, that are always hired or nearly always hiring and at a living wage. So there's always a good opportunity for you if you are eligible to work within that field. So if you kind of knew, like I definitely want to go medical, maybe nurse midwife, maybe nurse, maybe LPN, then maybe we want to start you and get you your CNA and see how that feels. And at that point, we look at possibly helping you to pay for training.
That's what we have a question right now that is, do you help them get into a training program? And then I would ask, do you help with any of the financing or helping them navigate the financing for that training program?
Yes, I do. Because again, I'm a mom. And so I don't like anybody just like throwing themselves out there hoping to find funding, because that's hardly ever how it works. And so first of all, yes, we will help with training and we will help with the application process. There is a whole tight set of information that we have to gain before we look at getting anyone into training. And it is kind of detailed, but if say somebody wanted to go into welding, which is a high priority field, or if they wanted to go into construction, which is a high priority field, or if they wanted to go into CNA, I already mentioned, high priority fields. A lot of administrative work is also high priority, but there isn't a lot of specialized training there. But say you find something where, like the construction or the welding or the CNA, there are trainings about town and out into the county. And if it is an approved site, we can look toward helping you with funding once you qualify. So you're in the program, you qualify to at least make the ask for training funding. And my job is to make the best argument possible to say, this person deserves training funding. So what we do is we have you apply to the school. We make sure we do a search with PHEAA, with PHEAA, to make sure that you don't have any outstanding student loan debts, because that's a little bit of a stopper for anything with government money, is saying, you already owe some government money. And then we also have you take a baseline academic test. And that is called the CASAS, C-A-S-A-S. I'm sorry, I don't know what it stands for. It is basically a grade marker test. So, and it's something where I tell everybody tests differently. I happen to come from the family where I test really well. I have a child who does not test really well because he gets anxiety when he starts testing. And I got two kids who are like, oh, we're taking a test, let's go. So it all depends on who you are. And you do not have to test extraordinarily well on either reading or math, just enough so that we can qualify you and say, yeah, they can function with this. And usually it means at a high school level. So if you hated math, or you've been out of school for a couple of years and you're not really sure about your reading comprehension, it's not a stress situation. It's just you go in, you show what you can do. Maybe watch a few videos or read a few things and say, what was that about, before you take it. But you take that test, we get a grade marker, and if you qualify at a high school level test result, once you're applied and accepted into the school, and we make sure that you don't have any student loans outstanding, then we show that you are capable of taking on this training, and we request the training funding for you. The WIOA program for young adults can pay up to a lifetime total of $5,500 in grant monies that would go out to pay for the training. Yeah. CDL is also a really popular training with the young adult crowd, with the understanding that a lot of places don't hire CDLs until they're over 21 or over 25 so that the insurance prices go down at that point. But many of those things we can do with less than $5,500. So to me, my favorite prices will pay you to do it, but just slightly under that is it's free, and we can do it for you free. We just want to make sure that you're dedicated to it and you plan on finishing and getting that certificate.
I was going to just ask, so say they don't finish, or, something happens and they don't go into that field. Do they have to do a payback, or is there anything like that that goes on?
Ooh, that is a savvy question. I like that. It's just like life. I've had it happen. I've had young people who have come through. They've been very excited about it. It happened to be CNA. CNA is a 1 month training. It's rigorous. It's 8:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning. They want you there at 7:45, and it goes until 4:30 in the afternoon. You have to follow all of their rules for 18 business days in class, and then you study for the certificate test, usually a month later, and then you see what you have. And most of the time with that training, you're already good to go with a job offer. But it's a matter of how quickly you can grab that CNA and move with it, because it's a certified nurse's assistant that will get you the work. So I have had people, and again, life happens. A young lady encountered a medical situation, and she was not cleared by her doctor to be able to do the lifting after she went back to class. So it ended up being training that we had paid for that we could not find any return on. It happens. Nothing happens to you. However, that if that was, and I want to say that particular training was about $2,000, that's $2,000 out of that $5,500 possible that is no longer available to you.
Okay.
If you were to take on, like the full 5,500, and it, didn't end up turning into a certificate, or didn't end up being what you wanted to do, then that's just, you're exhausting what you had available. And then we just look at other options. It happens. It's happened enough with me that I can say, well, let's look at the next step.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing that you can realize that, it's really hard to figure out when you are 16 years old, 17 years old, what you want to do with the rest of your life. And that if you really think, you want to go that medical route, and then you realize that you are like so extremely squeamish, or there's certain things that you just can't do, which, it's understandable if you didn't realize was part of the scope of being a CNA, then I can see them getting a different option and having that cap. But that you're not saying, no, we can't help you. You're just saying we can only go this far.
Mm-hmm. And that is entirely correct. Say you went into like CNA and it didn't pay the whole, like we didn't pay out the whole $5,500 potential. And then you realized it was 100% not for you. And you kind of changed and you said, maybe I want to go into this area, like medical assisting or something, like something kind of similar, but not as hands-on. Then we could look at helping you to do that, especially with training. Or, I'd be 100%, I can't think of anybody who would argue with not saying, argue with saying something like, that was just a bad fit, and now we're going to be more careful about it and, look at something else. And that $5,500 for training, that can be something that's maybe part of what needs to be leveraged. So maybe you're looking at a training that's more of a specialized school. It's going to go for a year or two, and we can make payments for you term by term out of that until it's exhausted. But you also want to look at other funding. And I know the question came up, and it has come up for me with several other participants as well. I have a little bit of information, and I have a good connection with somebody that will help you with the FAFSA and the FIA forms. There are FAFSA and FIA online events, usually starting in December, and they kind of go year-round now because COVID, and all of them are online, so that tends to be something that's a little available to you. I'm perfectly willing to do any sort of research that I can from my end but it is, think of it as a two-way street. I can help, but I do carry a caseload, so it can't be me 40 hours a week on one person. So I'll usually say, hey, have you tried this? Or maybe you with your other, case manager can look into that. And I just keep reminding everybody, because again, free is my favorite price. If it's going to come out to something that you got to cover, then I will say, you know what, this is going to be something that you're going to need to cover. So did you fill out all of your financial aid possibilities? One of the things that I know, having a child who is looking at college and universities, is sometimes the best choice is the one that you would never think of, because you're like, I could never afford that. Those big schools with the big price tags on them, they're the ones who have the more, founders and just streams of funding coming from their alumni association. And maybe they really like funding somebody like you, or maybe they really just want to be able to help you. And so they can do it a whole lot better. One of the fathers on my kids' track team was telling me a couple of years ago, yeah, you got a pretty smart kid. They're running great at track. Maybe if they went to Mercyhurst University, they could get a better package than if they went to someplace like Penn State. Penn State is a huge school. They're state funded. They can afford to be a little bit picky, and they don't have a lot of scholarship money to give out. Mercyhurst is a local university, and they have a lot of funding. And if they see something that they like in what you bring, then there might be more funding there for you than what you think. Like, don't rule anything out. But this funding can help as well, as long as you're working within getting that high priority occupation. My little life story is, I wanted to be a ballerina when I grew up, when I was like 16. And then I had the horrible information thrown at me that I was simply never going to be tall enough to be a ballerina. And so I shifted and I thought, well, I'll be a dance teacher. Who doesn't want to be a dance teacher? And so as it turns out, after gaining my 4-year undergraduate degree in dance and being ready to be a teacher, dance teachers really aren't that in need anywhere. Most places where they teach dance, they have the students that came up in the program and they want to hire them, and it's a part-time job. So then I thought, well, I want to be a high school dance teacher. And so I got my teaching certificate and kind of blended what I thought would be teaching English and then also teaching dance. And as it turns out, it's still a hen's tooth situation where you just really can't find that job. There are about 4 of them in the Erie County area where you can teach dance, and you would probably be expected to teach something else too, but guess what? Those jobs are all taken. So I am the poster child for keep thinking about another step.
No, that's brilliant. That's you're speaking from experience. And so once you do all this testing and we've got them trained, do you help with resume preparation and applications and things like that with the students and the youth? Or do you kind of hand it to them and say, fill this out? Like, where is your process with them with that?
Oh, yes. And I like to think that we never leave you hanging. We're full service at CareerLink, and I own the fact that although I actually do have some pretty good chops in resume building, it's not my position to do that. So we have people who are specialized at resume building, and I do a warm handoff. So resume building is something that we're always saying, hey, you've been at this work experience for a couple of months here. I think we should update your resume. Let me get you a contact to my buddy Robert, who is amazing, and we'll sit down with you one-on-one and build a resume that you feel great about. And he'll, plug in and try to get information from you so that he can show you off as well as he can interactively within that resume. My information to people is always, keep in mind that this is you. It's your self-portrait on paper, career-like. And so you can always say, I don't like that part, and we take it out because it's you. But yes, we help with resume building. We help with potentially job placement if we possibly can. We have a business services connection in the office where their job is to go out and to look for the places that are hiring in those high priority fields, in the fields that are of most need in the Erie County area. They can look outside of it if you're looking to do a little bit of a move. And part of what we do, though, is to try to get you very well connected and ready. Another part of our team, and my buddy Robert is part of that team too, can help you with job searching and just really getting down into whatever search site you're looking into, and helping you to understand how to answer those dreaded questions that they put on those applications. When they say, oh, you should really be applying to 3 or 4 jobs a week, that's all you're really going to have time for if you get into a job application, because it's like holding up a legal pad with a question sometimes, and they get intense. But yes, all of that we're either talking you through, or we're working you through, or we are connecting you with somebody who will work with you more one-on-one and interfaced. And so you aren't going to lose support. The support person might change.
No, that's amazing. So is there anything else? We've covered a lot. You are a huge asset to a youth that is entering the workforce. Is there anything else that we missed in you that you do for them?
Yes, and thank you. You're very sweet, kind to say. This is an amazing program. All of CareerLink. If somebody had told me when I was in high school or early college, like, hey, we got this program out there, you just need to walk into the CareerLink, they'll help you with their resume, they will help you with getting ready for interviews. That's the other thing that we do is interview preparation. You can look at just understanding what questions you're going to face and really fine-tuning the kind of answers that you need to give. That, again, we want it to be you, but we want it to be your best professional face. And so learning how to expect those questions and navigate through them is just going to be super important for you. And let's see, though. I'm trying to think of other little whistles and bells. Oh, I did not mention within the WIOA program, we mentioned the possibility of helping with tuition. And that is something that's paid up front. It's not a tuition reimbursement. You don't go in and then we pay it back if we think you're okay. We go in and we set it all up, and you actually, the training site is not permitted to allow you in until we've assured them that you have funding. And so once you have that assurance that you're going to get the funding from us, then you can start the training. And that might be, maybe you're pushed back by a month because we need to get one more form together or something like that. But so say you have the funding for training, and then there's something else that you need. You have a supportive service fund that is available through you through the WIOA program, and it covers anything that you need in order to move forward. Let me explain that a little bit better. So I have a couple of college students who have become college students while working with me, and they're in 4-year programs. Twice a year, spring term and fall term, I contact them and I say, can I help you with anything? Are you ready for textbooks? And I can free up funding to help them to pay for textbooks. And
that's gigantic. That is
amazing.
Huge.
Yeah, I don't know what your textbook costs look like back in the day, but mine were, as an English major, later in the day, it was never quite as bad as, say, science majors or math majors or music majors. But as a parent, I can say, I'll take that. I'll take any help you can give. So textbooks is a fine example. Maybe you don't need textbooks. Maybe you need to get your clearances done. Maybe you need to get a background check done. Maybe you need to get your fingerprint scan done because you're working with something that, when I was, especially when I was teaching, we needed all of that done, and it comes at a cost. And the last time I did it, about 3 years ago, that whole kit and caboodle cost me something like $76 out of my pocket, which, thanks to the fact that I was, employed someplace kind of nice, they reimbursed me for that, but we can pay it up front for you so that it's not something that is going to sit on you. I've helped a lot of people to get their state ID renewed because that's a little bit of a cost. And I've helped quite a few people to get driving lessons so that they can get their learner's permit and then their driving license ready for. And there's a place in town called Transportation Solutions. They're wonderful. and they will help to prepare you with the assistance of whoever else can help you to practice driving, to get ready for and take the driving exam. And I like it. I like leaving it to the professionals. I'm great with having parents help, but in any way that I can help you, even if it's to get the learner's permit taken care of. And one of the things that I offer all the time, because it's so huge and important, is I like to think of it as connectivity. If you are somebody, an individual who does not have a phone of your own, or if you're walking around, and my youngest kid right now, 16, and actually the 23-year-old, are both walking around with broken phones. You can barely see the screen, or it's old and it's clunky and it's falling. The kids just fell apart about a week ago, and we're waiting for a new one to come in the mail because we insisted upon ordering the one we wanted. But we can help you with that cost, because that is something that's vitally important, that you have a phone that keeps you connected. So when they call you for the interview, you can answer the phone. So it's so important. Or it might be a matter of getting you text or a data plan or something like that, or just paying that phone payment for 1 month until you can get going with some sort of employment. So the Supportive Service Fund is something that's it is specifically things that we can help you to do that will make you more employable and to keep you going. So needs. In COVID land of the past year, that has meant occasionally that we can help with an emergency rent payment if there is no other help available. We are the funding of last resort, which means that we have to show that nobody else can do this for you. But in the case of things like buying scrubs for work, or getting you those school books for class, I'm pretty sure nobody else can do it for you. And so let us. And that amount is, with the youth program, with young adults, $500 per year, renewable every year at the 366-day mark. So what that looks like with my college students that I'm working with is, what one kid needed about $300 worth of books in September. And then come May, we got about $200 left to work with. I will max that out as much as possible. Can we get used books? Are you okay with this slightly cheaper version? Whatever we can do according to what you need. And then we'll do that. And then next fall, assuming we've got 366 days from the last order of that $300, we freed up that $300 that hadn't been used since last fall to, again, start using again. Maybe you only need $130 because you have a small course schedule, or you have some of your old books that you're using again. Then I logic it through. I was not somebody who didn't like math in school, so I will figure out for you what you have available every time you ask.
That is amazing and awesome. That is so good to know. These services are going to be really well received by the people that qualify for them. So I want you to tell me right now, how do we get a hold of you, Miss Lisa?
Wonderful to ask. Okay, so the easiest, well, actually, the quickest way for you to remember is call the CareerLink office. You can throw my name around, be like, I want to talk to Lisa. For some reason, I'm the only Lisa in the office right now. So if you happen to remember Lisa Karney, or Lisa in the youth department, or Lisa, she works with young adults, they'll bat you to me. They'll be like, hey, I just had a call from, Johnny, and here's the number. Boom. You are welcome, and I'm sure that my information is going to be made available on on all of the websites and things like that. My work phone number is 814, I gotta look at this, 272-4171. I'll throw it in the chat in just a moment. And then I can also be emailed easily. It's lisa.carney@nwpa for Northwest Pennsylvania, careerlink.org. But really, the easiest way, like if you're looking at all that and going, oh, I don't know, call CareerLink, say youth department, I heard from somebody named Lisa, and they'll find me. They know I talk a lot.
Okay, well, I'm going to have Lisa put in her chat her information, and then I am going to thank you so kindly from the bottom of my heart for coming on Wonderful Wednesdays with Wendy and letting us know exactly all about what's going on with your WIOA program at CareerLink. It is such a great resource. I would love to see a lot more youth use that to their opportunity, to give them a hand up and a good start in a career and a lifelong journey into stable employment. So thanks for coming, Lisa. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you, Wendy. You know you're the best.
Bye now.
Bye.